Hi, friends. Welcome back to another episode of Autumn Abroad. In this episode, it's moving day. First things first, how did we figure out what to pack and how many suitcases did we bring with us? Myself, my husband, and our toddler, we each had a large checked bag, a carry on bag, and a personal item. So, all of our suitcases together, excluding the personal items, we had a total of 6 suitcases. Figuring out what to bring, it was difficult. In the beginning, when we first started packing, we started like a month before we actually moved to make sure that we had enough time to pack everything, figure out logistics, sell things that we weren't bringing with us or that we didn't want to store. My husband tried to pack personal items, as many as he could. And that was his downfall at the end. I figured from the beginning we weren't going to be able to bring many personal items. So I personally did not pack any with me. My husband, he did end up being able to bring a few personal items, such as a few pictures, picture frames. He brought some books for himself. But beyond that, we left a lot of things back in Chicago. So originally, when we started packing, we figured out very quickly that the issue was not going to be necessarily space in the suitcases to fit everything that we wanted to bring. The issue was going to be weight. At first, we thought because size was going to be an issue, we decided to try those vacuum seal bags to condense clothes flatter so you can fit other things in the suitcase. Well, fun fact, they work space wise, but they're actually very heavy. And so it ended up adding to the weight in our suitcases. We ended up ditching the vacuum seal bags and just packing things as is in the suitcase. Once we figured out weight was going to be our main concern with packing, things started to get a lot harder trying to figure out what we were actually going to cut and what we were actually going to keep. When we first started packing, this was when we assumed size was going to be our biggest issue. So, Ian, my husband, took his large checked bag, stuffed it full, zipped it, weighed it. His was 90 pounds. In order to not be charged for extra weight, your checked bag has to be under 50 pounds. So my husband had to lose 40 pounds out of his suitcase, or he could have got it down to 70 pounds and paid an extra fee. So, ultimate goal was not to pay an extra fee to save a little bit of money since this whole process has been expensive as it is. So, he had some work cut out for him. I asked my husband what he tried to bring in his checked bag to make it weigh so much. He decided to pack all of these extra books. I'm like, you can't bring all these books. When I first packed my checked bag, it was only about 60 or 62 pounds. So I only had about 10 to 12 pounds to lose. So the majority of that weight came from a few clothes and shoes. What we actually ended up bringing with us were clothes, shoes, and some toiletries. The majority of toiletries we actually ended up pitching at my dad's house before we left because it was cheaper just to buy all new toiletries when we got to the UK than try to worry about the liquid restrictions for a carry-on bag or space/weight in a checked bag. It just wasn't worth it. So essentially, we just ditched all toiletries and we only ended up bringing a few with us. For my daughter, all of her clothes fit into half of her checked bag. And so the second half of her checked bag and all of her carry on bag were just toys. We had to donate some of our toys and books to our friends back home, and we were able to bring a decent amount of her toys to make the new home feel a little bit like the old home. When we were at my dad's house finalizing packing, it took us days to finalize exactly what we're bringing with us, as in zip up the suitcases, let's put it in the car. because of the weight issue that I mentioned previously. Every single time that we took something out of the suitcase, we had to weigh it again to make sure we could get under 50 pounds. Otherwise, we'd be paying an extra fee. So it took days and days of one pair of boots, two pairs of boots, a sweater, take out a dress, can't bring your blow dryer. Packing and repacking was very stressful. Constantly packing, weighing, repacking, weighing. There are definitely things when we got here that we didn't need to bring with us, but of course, you never know that until you actually get to your destination and start unpacking and start making your new place a home. We were at my dad's house the week of Thanksgiving because we were moving the next week. The first week of December, I felt like I could not relax while at my dad's house and enjoy the holiday with my family because I felt like we were just in limbo the entire time. I felt like this move was just looming over us. I just wanted the move to be done and over with. We've been prepping for so long. We were as close as we were going to be until the actual day of travel. The day of the flight, we had to use my stepdad's SUV. It was the largest car in our family because it's the only car that could fit all 6 of our suitcases, our personal items, and a stroller. Ian was insistent on bringing our large stroller. In the end, I'm glad we did because the sidewalks and streets are so uneven here. A lighter stroller, such as an umbrella stroller, that was not going to cut it here. So in the end, I am glad that we ended up bringing the large stroller, but it was quite a pain to try to fit it in the car with all the other luggage, get it through the airport. We had to wait after we landed in the UK for them to deliver the stroller. Strollers are just a hassle. They're a necessary hassle. So on the way to the airport, we tried to be strategic about leaving during my daughter's nap time because the airport was about an hour, hour and a half away from my dad's house. Our flight to the UK wasn't until like 8 p.m. that night. And so we hoped my daughter would get a little bit of a nap in before we were stuck in the airport for a few hours waiting for the flight. Obviously, if she didn't get a nap in and she stayed up that entire time, bad news bears for everyone. Well, lucky us, she didn't nap. She fell asleep right when we were circling the airport to get dropped off at departures. Once we got to departures, we emptied out all of our luggage quickly and we said bye to my mom. And getting from departures to baggage claim was absolutely comical. Ian is trying to push the luggage cart, which, mind you, neither of us have ever used before. Ian is pushing the luggage cart with 4 suitcases, and he's dragging 2 suitcases behind him. I have the stroller with our daughter. Even walking from departures to get the luggage cart was hysterical. And we're trying to roll everything going in the same direction. It was just hard. It was really difficult. This entire process has been stressful and difficult. Now, the weekend after Thanksgiving, Chicago decided to bless us with 9 beautiful inches of snow, which meant that temperatures were freezing when we were leaving for the UK, and they had to de ice the plane after we boarded, which took 2 hours. And if you've never been on an airplane that has to be de iced, you should know that you can only de ice the airplane after everybody has boarded and you've backed away from the gate. May I remind you that our toddler has not had a nap all day. She's absolutely exhausted. She's overtired. She's overstimulated. She's hot on the airplane. We are like sitting ducks here for at least 2 hours while they de ice the plane and we can get to taxiing on the runway. It was absolute hell. On top of that, flights from Chicago to London are always typically a red eye to help align with the time change. You leave Chicago at night, you get to London in the morning. If you've ever been on an international red eye, you know that once you get in the air, the flight staff feeds you dinner, then turns off the lights so you can go to sleep for a few hours before they wake you up again and feed you breakfast before you land. So, with that said, on top of de icing the plane for 2 hours, taxiing, getting in the air, we also had to have dinner, which means that the lights don't turn off until a good hour or so after we're already in the air, which just adds to the amount of time that my toddler is not sleeping because she will not sleep unless it's dark and it's quiet and she can lay down flat. My daughter didn't fall asleep until after 11 p.m. She was so overtired. The flight was absolutely miserable for my husband and I. I felt very, very bad for all the people sitting around us, but there was absolutely nothing we could do. To help my daughter sleep while she was on the airplane, we thought ahead and we thought it'd be a good investment to purchase one of those flyaway beds. It's essentially a big blow up mattress that sits across the seat so small children can lay down horizontally and sleep on an airplane. We bought it for my daughter because we know that she doesn't do well sleeping sitting down. She much rather prefers to sleep horizontally laying down. And fun fact, the flyaway bed did the complete opposite that we wanted it to do. On top of her not napping the whole day, on top of 2-hour delay with the de-icing on the plane, on top of getting in the air, feeding us dinner, that's another hour or so. Once they turned the lights off, she tried to lay down and get comfortable, and she was not able to completely spread out. She kept kicking the seat in front of her, and every time she did, she would jolt up and scream out of frustration. Needless to say, the flight was miserable for my husband and I. Absolutely miserable. We had a screaming toddler who could not get comfortable. Neither of us really slept on the plane. They have the TVs on the back of the airplane that do turn off, but every time you tap it, it turns back on. And so that's a fun game from our toddler. So that kept turning on and waking her up as well because the lights were stimulating for her. We eventually made it to the UK, landed safely, which is all that matters. But the journey itself and travel day was an absolute nightmare. When we landed in London, we rented a car to help get all of our suitcases home because we were afraid that they wouldn't fit in a cab. And we also had to run some errands over the next few days instead of trying to drag it on public transit. After we landed, we took about 2 weeks to get settled into our new flat and make the house a home, make it more comfortable and cozy because we were getting ready to host friends for Christmas. On the next video, we'll explore Christmas in London. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time.